welcome back to I guess we call this a small, uh, bigger preview of the game Concord. And in the last episode of the CGC podcast, I talked about Concord for about 20 minutes, and I broke down how I felt about it, what its future chances were, so on and so forth. I'm going to expand on those feelings a little bit, and I'm also going to deliver a message. Maybe some would consider it a warning, and not a warning in a negative way, like "oh, I'm gonna get you" or nothing like. Cause we don't do that here. But just I wish to serve caution to some people because the way they're framing their annoyance with a certain topic in this game is making them look really, really. We'll get into it. How about that? Um, so I've played a few more games of it, and it'd be nice for me to be able to speak on particulars of the gameplay that I've had. But right now, I'm looking at older footage. I'm going to be lacing newer footage into this video, and you guys, of course, will see that. But there's things about this game that I spoke on in the last podcast that are going to hurt it in the long run. And if you watch the last episode, I've kind of told you guys this game has a ceiling of, I think, about March or April. They'll announce that this game will not be getting new content. I think, or I believe I said I wouldn't be surprised. Now, I'm not hoping that's the case. I hope it gets a few years. And again, it's something I said, but I'm pretty sure this game's ceiling is pretty low as far as the amount of months that it's going to be in active service. Uh, I think it's coming out about a decade or so too late. Uh, I think that the field that it's going to be set against this fall is ridiculously piled up. And I've actually seen another new game that it's supposed to be going against. And funny enough, it's an Xbox, at least right now, exclusive game, so Xbox and PC. Um, and that one, when it was shown off or played, had more buzz, at least on the PC side, which is the side that really matters because console gaming, despite what a lot of people would have you believe, is dying. Um, I think that the pandemic uh, and the having to deal with uh, the boosters and things of that nature, people who were getting their hands on hundreds, if not in some cases thousands, of PlayStation 5s or Xboxes, and Xboxes would probably be in the hundreds. It's not a dig. It's just the truth. Um, and then selling them at double the market price. I think that really, really hurt consoles. I think this is why, cloud gaming. This is the door that's going to open up for cloud gaming and handheld PC gaming. But that's another topic, and maybe I'll touch on that a little later in the video. But console gaming is dying, and the one platform that really could have saved this game is PC, and they're not responding to this game. They're responding to I believe the game's called Fragpunk, which is the Xbox title I'm thinking of. And like I said, of this batch of hero shooters that's about to drop, with Marvel Rivals, um, Concord, uh, Valorant for all intents and purposes because it's launching on PC. I mean, it's launching on consoles for the first time. Um, I kind of included Smite in there because of how damage works on this game. So for all sorts of purposes, Smite to an extent, Smite 2 to an extent. For all of those games like this that are about to launch, this one is this group's Battleborn, which is the name of the Gearbox game I couldn't think of in the last video. But Battleborn was the game that was, oh, it's cool. Conceptually it's okay, but it doesn't have a chance in hell against, the Overwatch and Paladins, which is the game that actually came out first in the genre more recently. In that batch, the first game in the genre, I believe, is Team Fortress. It might even be something else, but Team Fortress, the original Team Fortress, might be the first in that genre. I digress. About Concord, I've played more of it, and I found even more characters that I really, really like. I like their gameplay styles. I like what they can do. There's a healer on here who's ridiculously powerful. She can put down healing stations. She can put down shields. And she has a pretty decent gun that does some good damage. She can't, again, the problem with this game is you can't really solo stuff. She's not somebody who can win too many solo fights, but she can put in good damage. She definitely can finish weakened characters off at a pretty decent tick. Um, there's another character on here who has a rocket launcher. I'm not familiar enough with these characters' names yet. There's a character on here with a rocket launcher. I basically call her the Quake character. You know, kind of fly in the air, shoot rockets, get splash damage. Um, Pretty decent character. I think my favorite character on this game so far is the Urkel bot character, and I'm telling you my age here, but the Urkel bot character is female character that can kind of like when she dodges, she goes invisible, and then she's really good at flanking. She's not really good at taking fights on her own. She can flank, um, put in damage with her burst fire silence pistol. Like she's the definition of flank and then she can disable abilities with her grenade. So if you see a bunch of people spamming abilities like they're putting down health stations and shields and stuff like that, she's actually the one character that can get around that stuff, throw a grenade, disable all of that stuff, and then open up for damage for your teammates. But you have to be talking to each other. Again, this game is very team oriented. It's very, if you don't work with, the people you're playing with, you will lose. And I said before that I think that's actually not a good thing for this game because most people are very selfish. And it's actually funny that I bring that up because it's going to kind of lead into a problem I'm having with the community and how they're approaching their judgment to this game. But most people are very selfish, right? Most people are very selfish, and like Call of Duty has kind of turned the average gamer into, uh, you know, what am I doing? The highlight should be about me. How come I can't get kills? It's like when the biggest game in the world for decades has been a game where uh, because of kills that you've gotten, you can call in helicopters, you can call in tanks, you can call in airstrikes, you can call in all this stuff, and even a game like Overwatch, right? Because the beta ended for this, and I hopped on Overwatch, and I played with a healer class on there, and I got 18 kills with them, and I don't think I've gotten higher than 8 kills in a match with this character. Again, I'm not the best first-person shooter player in the world, but I think my ceiling has been like 8 or 9 kills. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's been my ceiling. Um, I hopped on Overwatch, got some kills. I forget the character's name. Again, it's Overwatch has so many people I don't remember all of them, but I got 18 kills with them. He has the gun where he can heal, and then he can also shoot people with the gun, and then he could throw down like this field where once you throw the field down in front of where your teammates are, any projectile they shoot through that field does more damage. It's the black French dude, or he might be West Indian. I'm not sure. Uh, but like I felt more powerful playing with that character, who's blatantly a healing character. He's not supposed to feel like one of the more powerful characters in the match. I'm literally there for support, right? I felt more powerful with him than I did with any character in Concord. And then Overwatch also has the concept of um, the super move. So after you get so many kills or you do so many things based on the objective, whatever have you, you get the super move. And the super move is about as close as you get to a kill streak in something like a Call of Duty. And that was a very clever design, I think, by Blizzard, because it gives you that self-gratification of, okay, I did this, I earned this, or I can do something that nobody else in the game can do. This makes me cool. This makes me powerful. Concord's missing that. Concord is very team based, and you'll see in a few of these gameplays, because it even happens to me. I believe in one of the gameplays I'm going to upload. Um, People play this game and they try to run out and solo and killing their own, and when that doesn't work out for them after losing one or two gunfights, they will quit. You will often find yourself in 3v5s, 2v5s, 2v4s, 5v4s. And I've been on both sides of it, right? I've had to be on a team. We finished a match where, it was five of us versus two people, and they, kudos to them for having the balls to just finish it out, because it's just a game, right? To get that upset about it, and it's just not even ranked play, right? But I've also been on a team where it's just like, man, me and two other guys had to finish it out, or gals. I don't know who was on the other end of the sticks, but we just had to finish it out because the two people just quit. They couldn't take losing in a beta, so they just quit. And that speaks volumes to the again, the audience that these games are being made for. A lot of you guys are soft, man. A lot of you guys are soft as hell. A lot of you guys, the moment things don't go your way, the first thing you do is quit. The moment things don't go your way, the first thing you do is whine, right? And I'm old, you know what I'm saying? This might be some, get off my lawn type shit. But it's like a lot of you dudes are soft. A lot of you dudes quit. And that's going to be a big problem with this game. It's like, because it doesn't saturate the mindset of the look how cool I am gamer, it's going to have problems. And again, I'm not sitting here and rallying for Concord as like the best first-person shooter of all time. No, it's not that. But it's something that it plays well enough. And, I believe the pedigree as far as the developers for this game is like Call of Duty, Destiny, and Halo. I believe it plays well enough that, man, it deserves to at least get a few years of story development and characters and balancing and rebalancing, just to see if they can figure it out to some extent. Maybe add some modes. I think the way the lore is set up in this game, they probably could end up having something like co-op raids or missions. That stuff that Overwatch 2 promised and canceled. You know what I'm saying? Before they ever really delivered on anything that they said they were going to do for that sequel. And, I think Concord could pull some of this stuff off, but the way it's going right now, it is being prematurely buried on the internet. It is coming out in the worst time for a game like this to come out. It probably doesn't stand a chance in hell against, its what will be its contemporaries that are coming out this fall. And it's probably, again, I'm saying March or April, they will announce, we're no longer creating content for this game. And unfortunately, it might even lead to people at Firewalk Studios. It might lead to layoffs or closure. And that's unfortunate part of the gaming business. This is why after I got my degree, I didn't want to get in the game. The writing was on the wall. I think around the time I finished, THQ shut down, Midway was closed. Like I'm like, oh shit, this is not going well for this. Like it's rough out here. People are losing their jobs like crazy, and it's like it's such a volatile market. It's like I'm probably better off if I really want to make games. I'm better off doing it on an indie level because if it's tied to some kind of corporate fuckery, it's probably a high risk, low reward venture. And again, that's another video, but the writing was on the wall for me, which is why I chose not to get into the games industry once I finished my degree. This game might be doomed. And it's a shame because I do like what I've played. Like, is it derivative? Yes, but everything since Overwatch and Paladins is fucking derivative. Like, I wish you guys had access to more people who weren't just going to say the same shit over and over again because, it sounds nice or they want to be fucking edgy because they want to sound like all of the people who are group hating and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, the game's derivative, but you know what also is derivative? Fucking Valorant. Valorant's derivative. What's special about mixing Overwatch with Counter-Strike? Apparently a lot. I'm not being negative. Apparently a lot is special about it. But let's not... Is that game not derived from those two products? Is it not a mixture of Overwatch or Paladins and Counter-Strike? It absolutely is, and there's nothing wrong with it because it's executed quite well. But you got motherfuckers out here talking about how derivative and boring and blah, blah, blah this game is. It's like, dude, at this point, you're asking for these companies to reinvent the wheel. And if you've lived long enough, you know that innovation on the level that you're asking is not going to come from some corporations. It's just not. They're not willing to take the risk. Too many of them have died trying to take risk. So asking for something on that level day one from these corporations is not realistic. Let's put our business hats on, right? Let's be serious about what we're talking about. The most unique, the most brilliant, the most different games for the last decade or so have come from indie developers. Because at the end of the day, if you're willing to foot the bill and take the risk yourself, you stand a much better chance than having a corporate machine behind you, because a corporate machine is going to expect results. And if they don't get those results immediately, you will have to fire people. Your studio will close. Ask the people who made that Zao game, which in its own way was derivative, right? I believe it was like a Metroid clone, right? It was a Metroid clone with African lore, and it didn't work out. And they had to fire people because they probably, I think, was it EA that co-published that thing or co-signed it? So they probably, in order to not shut down, they may have had to sacrifice themselves. And I don't claim to know the entire situation, so if I misspoke, forgive me. But like, that's how this stuff works. I've seen more original ideas from indie developers. I've seen more ideas that touch closer to home to what we saw during the 360 original Xbox PS2 era. From indie developers, I've seen more original ideas than I've seen from any large major third-party developers. Large major third-party developers are going to play it safe. You'll see it with Fable next year, right? Fable's not going to have the multiplayer mode that you're used to seeing. It's going to be a single-player narrative-based game. Because adding multiplayer to something like that probably cost them hundreds of millions of dollars to make, because I know they had to hire a whole new set of staff members for Playground. They had to open a whole new studio to facilitate all of these developers. That stuff costs money. Making multiplayer where you can drop in, drop out like the last two Fable games, 2 and 3, that shit's not going to be possible with this game. Budget-wise, I'd be surprised if they fit that in. I don't believe that this new Perfect Dark is going to have multiplayer. Why? And because budget wise, it doesn't make sense. It's probably going to be a single player narrative based game only, which is going to be weird for a Perfect Dark game because at the end of the day, those games have a pedigree of being multiplayer games. But Microsoft, the corporation that owns the Perfect Dark IP, is going to be like, why the fuck would we make it a multiplayer game and risk losing money? Because one, we can't turn it into a live service. We already got Call of Duty and we already got Overwatch. This is why you haven't seen a new Quake. This is why you haven't seen a new Quake with multiplayer. And they're just letting Quake Champions sit out there. And I don't think Quake Champions is getting that many people on a daily basis. I could be wrong. But you're probably not going to get a lot of stuff. Like, yeah, Microsoft owns the Return to Castle Wolfenstein franchise for all its purposes. They can make that again. I don't know what the publishing issues might have been, but I know that now that they own Activision and they already own it, that's very possible. You're not going to see that shit again. You're not going to see Soldier of Fortune again. A lot of multiplayer games that Microsoft owned that fit into the genre of first-person shooter, if it's not Call of Duty or Overwatch, you can forget about that shit. It ain't happening. Because those two games are their cash cows. That was a negative part of them ended up buying those companies. Yeah, they own all these cool IPs. Yeah, they own all these games from yesteryear and so forth. You're not going to get an Enemy Territory Quake Wars 2. That shit's not happening. At the end of the day, if you want to talk business and a lot of you guys want to run your mouth about the business aspect of this shit, don't forget that part. There's no reason for them to make a new Return to Castle Wolfenstein with the asymmetric multiplayer if they own Call of Duty. They'll just put that mode in Call of Duty and charge you $70 every year, or say, oh, you give us $20, you can get it in Game Pass. They're not making a new Wolfenstein multiplayer game. They're not going to put multiplayer in Perfect Dark more than likely. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to get multiplayer. Like, the fact that Gears of War is coming out is like a huge surprise. Because at the end of the day, there's really no reason for them to do that. Like, for all intents and purposes, let's keep it a whole buck. There's no reason for them to make another Halo for a while. Because they have Call of Duty. They could play it safe and just sit on that. And you can sit here and say, oh, you're wrong or that's stupid. Tell me the numbers that you got, and I'll tell you numbers that I can look at, and I'll sit here and tell you flat out, based on what Halo Infinite did and is doing right now, there's no reason to make another Halo. Now, they might, because that game has a fan base that's very vocal and overly judgmental, you know, like most huge fan bases are. And it's not even really the fan base. It's the motherfuckers who with the microphones to stand on their soapboxes, right? Right, like, so I'm gonna be straight up with you. When I called you guys one of the worst audiences ever, and I'm gonna get back to this Concord shit, but I got a couple of things I got to get off my chest because again, I'm older, and I've seen companies come and go. I have games that I love that were considered, generally speaking, terrible and will never get sequels. And I still love those games regardless. And I've had to come to the conclusion, okay, this shit's never happening again because it was not financially viable. And at the end of the day, we're talking about something that's like $1 trillion business. And it's ran by motherfuckers whose job it is to make money, not to make dreams come true. Right? And most of you motherfuckers forget that. Especially when you go on the internet and you whine and you bitch and moan about what $1 trillion or $1 billion corporation is doing that you don't agree with. Like, your opinion don't fucking matter, dude. You a consumer. You a consumer. You either gonna buy the shit or you don't. And based on whether you do or don't, that's how they're gonna act. Right? But I just find it funny that we live in a time where some of you dudes complain about shit so much, and the wrong shit oftentimes, and then you wonder why things keep getting worse. So check it. Let's bust down this Concord issue, because I'm watching other content creators' views on the game, and I'm noticing a pattern with certain content creators, and I I hate getting political, but you motherfuckers are making it political. So I have to make it because it's funny. The same motherfuckers that's always screaming, keep your politics out my games, keep your politics out my games. They're the main ones that's making this political. They're the main ones where you hear the word pandering. They're the main ones where you hear the word, oh, well, you're only trying to focus on this group. And where's the guys that look like me and all this other shit, right? I hate putting politics in games. But if we're going to put politics in games, let's put politics in games. Let's talk politics real quick. Let me be clear. I am obviously a black dude. If you haven't heard that in my voice, congratulations. This is what's inside your Cracker Jack box, right? I'm a fucking black dude. Old black dude, 44 years old. I've been playing games since I was 3. I love the genre. The genre saved me as an only child who's grown up in Detroit, been in some harsh environments. I wasn't able to go outside sometimes. If at some point I moved into a neighborhood where I could go outside and hang with the local kids and not worry about getting in some kind of fuck shit trouble or something like that. But for a good portion of my life, video games have kept me out of all kinds of bullshit and trouble that I could have easily gotten in living in the environment that I live in. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to give you some fucking ABC back to school story about my fucking life, but at the end of the day, it's the truth, right? It's the reason I went ahead and got the degree I got and do the things I do in my professional career is because of my love for technology, in particular video games. I love the genre. I love this form of entertainment. I think this interactive entertainment is probably the best thing that human beings have ever came. Human beings have always played games from the beginning of time. You go to the burial grounds of ancient civilizations, you find board games, trinkets, toys. We've always played, right? And I think video games are the ultimate evolution of that. Like, for me personally, like I've told you guys before, I'm not great at first-person shooters, but the main reason I play them is because I used to have a lot of G.I. Joes when I grew up. And a game like Battlefield kind of like personifies the idea of what, in my imagination, G.I. Joe was. I had to imagine all of the explosions and the planes and the tanks flying. And then all of a sudden one day, this little company called DICE makes a game where it's like, holy shit, this is what used to go on in my head when I was a kid. That's why I love that game. That's why the logo for this channel is what it is. You know what I'm saying? I fuck with Battlefield so heavy because it's what playing with the G.I. Joes was. It's the living personification of that. For lack of a better terminology. So I love this shit because for me, it's an evolution of what I've always done. It turned things that I used to have imagined into reality. And it's like, I'm not cynical about it. You know what I'm saying? I was a big Sega fan. I watched them motherfuckers die because of the mistakes they made and because of shit that Sony did to position themselves and their console, and in particularly with the Dreamcast, Final Fantasy VIII, to weaponize against Sega and take advantage of their missteps and their fuck ups and make something for themselves. And good on them for the corporate fuckery and subterfuge. It worked, right? Sega was stupid. They weren't. They won. I don't like mixing politics and games. I'm saying all to say this. Like, I truly get enjoyment out of video games. I'm not cynical about it. I love this genre of entertainment, and that's why I name myself Constructive Game Critiques, because even though I come off harsh sometimes, I try to constructively criticize this shit because I want it to be better. I want it to do well. I don't want it to die. You know what I'm saying? I was born during the original crash, and I know how bad shit got. I've studied the history of this stuff. I've taken classes on this stuff. That being said, again, a lot of you motherfuckers love to sit here and talk about how you don't like gaming to be political and you don't want to put politics in games. But when I see you judging this game in particular, we're bitching and whining about the pronoun shit. And, like, just talk about the game, dude. Who gives a fuck? Like, there's characters of different sexual orientations in Overwatch. There was characters of different sexual orientations in Mass Effect. Doesn't make it any less of a classic game. But some of you motherfuckers are really grasping at low-hanging fruit. Because instead of just talking about the gameplay and the special moves and how the game really isn't for solo queuers and how the game really, like, we're not talking about the special moves and how and which ones do and don't work. We're not talking about the gameplay mechanics and which ones do and don't work. We're not talking about it. Like, some of you guys are focusing on that, but just to get that one part of the audience that you know what I'm saying, you feel you need to get, and I don't know who they, what their political stance is. I don't give a fuck, because at the end of the day, your political stance is your political stance. It doesn't make you a good or bad person. You're just voting for what you believe is the best thing for you. And I have no problem with that. That's part of the human condition. I don't give a fuck who you vote for. I have friends who vote red. I have friends who vote blue. I don't care. That's fine. I'm never going to sit here and judge a motherfucker because he votes for something. Because at the end of the day, the president of the United States really doesn't affect you guys. And that's a whole nother conversation that, some people might want to have me and say, well, you're wrong. Like, dude, I've done well under Trump and I've done well under Biden because I'm not a fucking moron and I read the room. Everybody doesn't have that. And I get that. And that sucks for them. And I hate that for them. But I don't give a fuck who's in the White House. I don't. The shit don't matter. You gonna do well because you're gonna do well, or you're not gonna do well because you just don't know what the fuck you're doing in life, and you need to figure it out. And I pray to God that you do. If you're not religious, I pray that the universe points you in the right direction. All that being said, be very weary of these motherfuckers that in their videos they're worried about the he, the he, him, the she, her, or the they, them shit. Who fucking cares? I've heard some motherfuckers say, oh, the characters aren't fuckable. Who gives a fuck? I'm sorry, dog. As many video games, as much anime as I've watched, I've never sunk so low that I want to fuck any of these characters. Never. Not once. There's real women for that. Or if you're into guys, there's real guys for that. You know what I'm saying? Who gives a fuck? You motherfuckers keep bringing up they, them, he, she, or he, or her, him, or whatever the fuck pronouns. You keep bringing that shit up. And you keep using the word pandering. It's like, bro, what about the niggas' gameplay? How's this motherfucker play? I don't give a fuck about no fucking pronouns. How does this motherfucker play? Speak on that. And they put gameplay up, and I guarantee you, I bet money some of these motherfuckers only played 1 or 2 games of this shit. Some of them have genuinely played it, and they just bringing that shit in there because it's low-hanging fruit. Let me see if I can get the people who hate these motherfuckers to like my video. Because they make money off of it, right? I'm telling you right now, as a motherfucker who don't make money off this and is doing well enough in life, that I don't care if I make money off YouTube. This pander talk and this she, her, and getting mad about pronouns and motherfucking sexual orientations is some goofy ass bird shit. Right? Acting like they upset about this shit. Who fucking cares, dog? Motherfuckers being gay in video games don't make the game better or worse. How's the game? We don't want to talk about that. We want to pander to people's political reservations when it comes to human beings. I don't give a shit. And stop talking. You don't get to speak on pandering or you really bring up the word pandering when, generally speaking, you've never had to be pandered to. I'm doing my best not to walk that line, right? But I gotta fucking say this. You don't get to bring up pandering when you're a motherfucker that's never had to be pandered to, because in everything that's damn near ever existed, someone that looks like you, someone that is like you has been in it. From a business standpoint, from a corporate standpoint, this pandering that some of you motherfuckers are speaking on is really just an opportunity for them to tap what they feel is an untapped market or resource. Now it's not working. I think we saw earlier this week Microsoft get rid of their whole DEI department and things of that nature. The whole sweet baby thing, where apparently they've got a whole curse, quote unquote, going on. Anything they touch turns to shit type deal. And yeah, it's just like, I've spoken about this in one of my previous videos, and for God's sakes, I think it's very important that I go ahead and link that video to this section. I need to remember to do that, because at the end of the day, I don't think that forcing people who are not of a certain culture, or forcing people who are not of a certain walk of life to make characters of a particular culture or walk of life, I don't think that's the answer. I think the problem is, and I'm going to speak to particularly the black community, we don't have enough black creators in gaming. I don't personally want, need, or give a shit if a group of white developers wants to put a black character in the game. I want to play the game if it's fun, right? I would like for there to be more black developers. I would like for there to be more black producers. I would like for there to be more black creators in the space. But if you ever worked at a school like I do, and particularly in a black neighborhood, those resources aren't available to those kids, so they don't get to see that shit. Which is why these corporations are doing the shit they're doing, because generally speaking, a motherfucker like me with a computer science degree doesn't walk through the door every fucking day in comparison to people from other races who have those same kind of degrees and way more exposure and way more experience in that field than I do. That's why they're doing it a lot of times. And other times, it's literally just in hopes that, somebody from this sort of sexual orientation says, it's a character like me in the game, I'll play it. And it's like, that's realistically, that's not what works. But corporations don't live in the real world, right? They live in a world where it's like, let's tap into this market and see what happens. And once it doesn't work out, kaput. Let's get rid of it. Throw it in the trash. It doesn't work. And I understand that. I don't like it, but I understand that. But what I don't fucking really like is a lot of you motherfuckers who's supposed to be talking about the games and the gameplay going in on the sexual orientations you kids. Like, who gives a fuck? You can't fuck them. You play it, you control them in a game. You're not trying to fuck them. What's the problem? What are you talking about? Like, pay attention to the motherfuckers that's doing it, right? It's some black content creators doing it. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely some black content creators doing it. And I think those motherfuckers are going to get their wake-up call. And black folks, if you know what kind of wake-up call I'm talking about, you know what kind of wake-up call I'm talking about. And it's some Latino creators doing it too. But it's like, generally speaking, we know what kind of people are the ones saying this fucking, they're pandering and blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, you've never, and let me be fucking clear, you've never lived in a world, not really, where you didn't exist. I had two cartoons, one that I loathed and one that I love. I don't know why, but at the end of the day, I loved the Jetsons and I hated the Flintstones. And they were basically two sides of the same coin. When I was a kid, I didn't realize Hanna-Barbera made both of them, right? But they were two sides of the same coin to the point where they eventually even had them do a couple of crossover movies and shit like that. You know what I didn't see in those cartoons? Niggas. In the past and in the future, we didn't exist. But I still liked one and hate the other, not because I wasn't in it. One was just good to me, one wasn't. Like, these motherfuckers are screaming about the DEI shit and the pandering Shit, they are right. The people who give a fuck about that, people who represent those markets, they don't respond to that shit. And I think maybe these corporations are finally starting to learn that because it's hurting their pockets. Like, you can't just slap this sexual orientation or this race on the game and expect motherfuckers to buy it. The game actually has to be good. It actually has to do something meaningful. But what I don't fucking like is certain groups of motherfuckers and sitting here acting like that automatically makes a game bad. Because in the case of something like Concord, the game's not fucking bad. Call it derivative, fine, yes, damn near every game in this genre is. If you think fucking Marvel Rivals ain't gonna be nothing but Overwatch characters reskinned to look like Magneto, Wolverine, and Venom, then you're a fucking clown. And you don't need to have any discussions about video games because that's what the only difference between Overwatch and Marvel Rivals is the skins on the characters and the third person view. Other than that, it's fucking Overwatch. And it's going to be fun because Overwatch is fun. It's, no matter how much motherfuckers want to put negative reviews up and all other dumb shit, Overwatch is a fun fucking game. And Marvel Rivals is going to be fun. But Marvel Rivals is derivative. What's new that's being done in it? Destructible environments and Marvel characters, the fuck out of here. It's going to be derivative as fuck. But you won't hear that word about that. I wonder why. You won't hear pandering when it comes to that game. I wonder why. There's going to be female characters in the game that's going to be strong as fuck. But you won't hear pandering. You won't hear this. You won't hear that. I wonder fucking why. Grifters, dude. I told you before, I can't stand no fucking grifter. Race baiters, grifters, and race baiters aren't just black people, despite what they tell you. Race baiters are also white people or people who think they white enough to speak on white shit. And I had people tell me don't bring up race like this, but I can't help myself. I got to. Like, y'all motherfuckers race bait too. Y'all motherfuckers, sexual orientation, be baiting on that. Pause. All y'all motherfuckers is bait. All y'all motherfuckers is grifters. Like, a lot of the reviews and negative opinions about the game are breaking down to pronouns. Who gives a fuck about the pronouns of the characters, bro? How's the gameplay? Tell us about the gameplay. Tell us about a character you played with. Talk about the time to kill. Talk about go into detail about what the game's actual problems are. Because I'm not good at this media shit. I'm literally not getting paid for it. I'm literally not getting views on it. And I can tell you about gameplay aspects of the game that are hurting. In fact, if you watch my previous video and portions of this video, I have told you gameplay aspects of this game that are going to hurt it. I'm only talking about this political shit because I'm annoyed at the fact that seems to be a focal point of it. Who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck? A lot of you motherfuckers are, and I'm not, fuck the grifters. I ain't talking about them assholes. I'm talking about the audience. A lot of you motherfuckers are missing out on decent playing games because the grifter has told you, oh, they're pandering to this race or they're pandering to this group of people. Motherfucker, you play Overwatch. It's people that cross all kinds of sexual spectrums and racial cultures on that game. And it's fun, right? You play Mass Effect. The main character could be bisexual, homosexual, heterosexual. It didn't fucking matter. It was a great fucking game. That shit has been in games like was it a problem with Baldur's Gate? Was it a problem with Cyberpunk? Cyberpunk was, I thought we hated Cyberpunk because it was a bad game, not because you could be gay in it. Who fucking cares, bro? Pay attention to these motherfuckers that's out here You know what I'm saying? When they run out of actual shit to talk about because they really didn't play the game or they really don't know what the fuck they talking about, and they start bringing up pronouns and sweet baby and all this. Fuck sweet baby. Fuck that DEI shit. Fuck all that. Talk about the game, bro. If you don't want to include politics, stop bringing up race. Stop bringing up sexual orientation. Stop bringing up sweet baby ink, and stop bringing up DEI. Stop bringing it up. Talk about the fucking game. Because at the end of the day, if you haven't actually played the game, your opinion is fucking moot. And some of y'all motherfuckers is making videos and you didn't even play this game. But you ragging on it. Again, I'm in full agreement. I don't think this game is going to last long. I'm giving it March. As a matter of fact, I placed bets on that in my circles. Probably March or April to be dead. But I've actually fucking played it. I don't give a fuck about the pronoun shit. I think I maybe brought it up for a quick second in the last video, and I only bring it up because it's weird that motherfuckers are annoyed by the sexual orientation of fictional characters. Who gives a fuck? Okay, I get it. That's bothering you, but talk about the game. If you're supposed to be a gaming channel, talk about the game. Talk about the actual fucking game and how it plays. Make that the subject matter of why you think this game is, because some of you motherfuckers ain't what you think you are. You get accepted in that circle because you willing to talk saucy about that shit the same way that circle does. But as soon as that subject dies for them and they notice you sitting there, they're going to turn on you next. Ask Candace Owens. Right? All it takes is opportunity. Like, don't worry about that shit. That shit don't matter. Yes, there's characters in here that I guess would be considered of a different sexual orientation. Obviously, there's characters in here of a different race. Yes, there's only one white dude in it. Who gives a fuck? How's the gameplay? Who cares? How does the game play? I think it's a fun game. Again, it has gameplay problems, not political problems, that are going to hurt it at the end of the fucking day. You know, it's not going to beat the Marvel game because the Marvel game is fucking Marvel. Right? It's not going to beat Valorant because Valorant is Valorant. It already has millions of motherfucking players behind it. It's not going to be Overwatch because Overwatch is Overwatch. And it probably won't last more than 7 to 8 months. That's why. Nothing else. That's why. You got these grifters, sorry motherfuckers, who they're trying to squeeze the political juice out of their videos. You know, and I'm telling you as a person who doesn't get paid for this shit, who doesn't get a lot of views, I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. I'm not here for that. I talk about games, and I'm doing my best not to make this too political, but it annoys me that that's what this shit is coming down to now. Y'all, unfortunately, y'all got a lot of people that's giving y'all news. They ain't really talking about what y'all come there for. They turn into something else, and they're feeding off your rage, and they're feeding off of your discontent and your unhappiness and whatever have you, and they're making it into something that doesn't even need to be made into. And that's unfortunate. But you know, manipulation is definitely a part of the game, bro. And I want you dudes, I don't give a fuck what your race is, what your sexual orientation is. I want you motherfuckers to realize that's what's happening. If you want to keep games from being too political and all that other stuff, just talk about the games. If a motherfucker can't give you a video talking about this game without making it about pronouns and shit like that, man, look. And I know I'm doing that right now, right? But I'm only doing it as a warning, bro. Again, I try not to hop into that shit, but being who I am and what I am, I find myself having to do that. And it sucks because I'm here for fun, and politics ain't fun. Politics is bullshit. Politics is propaganda. Politics is, it's almost not real, right? Because it's been mutated into that. Again, another subject, another day. But it's just like, end of the day, bro, I need you guys to recognize that You know, there are actual gameplay issues with Concord, and that's why it's not gonna make it. It's not about the fucking orientation or race of the characters. That shit's stupid. Don't worry about that. It's pointless. Um, we're gonna properly go into what Concord is upon release. If it makes its release, I would not be surprised, honestly, if this game gets pushed back or maybe even canceled because the numbers for it have not been strong. Uh, People aren't playing it like that, and it worries me. Um, and as an aside, I would also like to add that I think, and I don't know this for sure, but I think one of Concord's biggest problems is Sony has positioned themselves with their audience as the company that makes a particular kind of game, and this does not fit into that motif, right? They are the single player narrative based game company, and this game is narrative based to an extent, but it's definitely not single player, and the narrative aspects aren't strong enough for the people to be like, yeah, this is strong enough for me to deal with the parts that I'm not here for, which is the multiplayer part. I don't think a lot of Sony guys, and I'm not trying to talk shit about motherfuckers' skills or abilities in multiplayer games. I don't think a lot of the Sony guys are big on multiplayer anymore. I don't think it's their jam. So they are they're not responding to this. I think a lot of like, and I could be wrong, but it's like maybe they would have responded more positively or more actively to The Last of Us 2 Factions 2 coming out. But instead of getting Factions 2, they got this. Instead of getting a new Twisted Metal, they got this. And like, as much as I would like to see Twisted Metal come back, I kind of understand why that game's not coming back either. Like, there's already a couple, believe it or not, of vehicular-based combat games, and Sony somehow saw, even though they're not seeing it with this one, that they would get killed in that space. Now, it's funny that I would say that, but they didn't have the foresight to see that this game really doesn't stand much of a chance, given the environment that it's going to be introduced to here in the fall. But I don't see how we get past a few months with this one, man. And again, I think it's unfortunate because there's things about it that I find very cool. But if I'm being realistic, again, March, April, and it's purely from gameplay and game design aspects. It's just going to, you know. And I've seen a thing where people talk about the characters ugly. I'm like, I guess. Everybody doesn't have the same art style. I thought the characters in Battleborn actually looked cooler than the characters in Overwatch, and you see how well that did for that shit. It's a gameplay thing, man. It's what the audience is, and unfortunately, because of this, the discussion we just got off of, this game's being buried because of political views and pandering, funnily enough, toward a certain audience who doesn't like certain aspects being put in their video games. But more importantly, uh, I just think Sony may have misread the room. I think they would have been much better off making The Last of Us Factions 2, and they could have had as many he, him, she, her, they, them characters as they wanted to, and because it was The Last of Us and not this new shit that nobody ever heard of, it would have been faring way better than this is. I'm not even sure. I'm not sure if Bungie bamboozled these motherfuckers or not. And I'm not sure they didn't do it so that Destiny would have a chance, because I don't know, like, so another thing business wise, and this is gonna be a long video, but we're having a discussion about games, in genuinely speaking. Even though we had that stupid political shit, let's get that out of the way. Let's talk about games. Let's talk about the business aspect of it, right? So apparently, and I don't want to, I hate to assume, but I'm almost certain that Bungie kind of systematically moved, or told Sony to move Factions 2 out of the way so that their own game didn't get hurt. Because you start reading news that, so the purchase of Bungie hasn't been completely finished yet, and there is a room for a whole corporate takeover if Bungie doesn't meet certain financial checkpoints or goals. And let's just be serious. If we're talking about business and the fuckery of business, they may have told Sony, yeah, get that faction shit up out of here, just for the sake of, not losing money in that ecosystem to that particular game. Because at the end of the day, as the same way, like I said, that there won't be a Perfect Dark multiplayer, and you won't see something like Enemy Territories, Quake Wars 2, or Return of Castle Wolfenstein 2, or something like that. The same reason I say that stuff is because these corporations don't want to think of a way to monetize that long term. Again, and old man talking again, but it's just like, I'm old enough to remember there was a point in time where you would get a multiplayer game, and you might get a couple of maps here and there, but there was no talk of live service. It didn't have to be a live service where every week there were little gremlins in an office somewhere tweaking the guns and the damage of this. And the game was what it was. It might get some maps here and there, but it didn't need to be constantly updated and constantly taken care of. Every company wasn't trying to be Fortnite or find their Fortnite, right? Like Microsoft just bought theirs. Sony's trying to find theirs, even though they already got fucking Destiny, and Marathon's on the way, and I've heard rumors of a Destiny 3. But like, multiplayer games have been turned into this ugly thing where it's just like, if it's not something where they can monetize it for like 3 or 4 years and sell a bunch of skins and stuff, they don't want to do it. And I remember a time when like a multiplayer aspect of a game was just, it's in there. It's a part of the game that happens to be there, and they took care of it. They had a map pack for it, and they did this, that, and the third with it, but it's not a live service. It's just a mode you can play on a game that happens to have a decent single player attached to it. You don't see that anymore. If they can't, like, and it'll be telling if Perfect Dark doesn't have that, right? If Perfect Dark doesn't have multiplayer in it, and it really should, based on the pedigree of that franchise and where it came from. But I have a feeling it won't have multiplayer because Microsoft is going to probably be like, well, yeah, we already got, you know, a couple of live service games. We don't need that. And it's like, it doesn't need to be live service, dude. I don't need the guns tweaked. You know what I'm saying? It would be refreshing for people to have to make lobbies and say, yeah, we're banning this gun because it's broken. Or if something is just ridiculously bad, okay, go in and tweak it, right? But like, I can't believe I'm saying this. I miss map packs, right? I think once we started making games where we said, well, we're going to give everybody everything for free. I think once we started doing that, shit got worse. And I've heard echoes of that in the Battlefield community, right? Like Battlefield was better when you had to pay like $15 to $20 to get the new stuff. Because at least then there was so much new stuff that if you just didn't want to pay the extra money for it, that's fine. I don't see me playing it that long, or I don't have the cash to spend on that. That's fine. But if you did pay for it, you got your money's worth. Like, surely we can look at like the Battlefield 2042 offerings as a game that has free content, and we can see how paltry those offerings were. Like maybe one new map. Like what was the cadence? One new redesigned map. Well, one new map and a redesigned map because the base game maps were so garbage and had so many design flaws in them that they had to go back and redo them over again. And it's like the last two Battlefield games where they haven't had map packs have been like that. Battlefield V had shitty content drops. I think it was like, what, 2 maps at best? And then Battlefield 2042, I think the last season you got 2 maps, but one of those maps was literally a section of an old map that they redesigned to be its own map. And it's just like, that's not new. That's not different. I think the season before that, the only map we had was like a meat grinder map. And me personally, for Battlefield, I don't give a shit about meat. I hate those maps. I get they have their purpose and they have their fan base, and that's fine. Good for those people who like that shit. I hate those fucking maps. Right? I cannot stand those maps. They're good for grinding weapons and getting high kills, but it's like I play Battlefield for all-out war shit, and I'm not getting tanks and planes in the narrow-ass hallway full of people. Right? So I vehemently hate those fucking maps. Cannot stand them. All that being said, we had a whole season where we got a rework of a map that was already bad, and we got one of those maps. And it's just like, I personally wouldn't mind paying $25, $20 for a set of maps and a set of guns and a set of vehicles and a set of gadgets. I think, you know what I'm saying, if you're willing to pay for that and they give you that girth of content, that's way better than saying, oh, here's one map for free and 2 new weapons for free and 1 new gadget for free. Like there's like if you're looking at the Battlefield 2042 UI for character customization, there's a whole section called drones, and they only have 1 fucking drone. They have 1 drone. I think they have maybe a few skins for it. I've only seen 2, but it's like that section was clearly supposed to have more stuff in it, but because you decided to go with the free content route and the live service route, and people bitched and whined about the original map designs, and justifiably so because they were terrible. But this diverted your attention from making new content for the game, so you had to go back and redo all your old content. You end up with this lackadaisical, blah ass fucking content, and you got sections of your game that are clearly unfinished or nowhere near as touched up as they should be. Like, I think the portal mode on Battlefield 2042 suffered because they had to spend so much time redoing something that people complained about, when at the end of the day, You probably should have been charging motherfuckers. You probably would have stood a better chance having skins in the game and charging people for map packs. And whoever don't want the shit, okay, you don't get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm all for giving people free content, right? Give them like one free map. That's some basic shit. But like, I personally would pay, if I'm enjoying the game, I would give you $20 to add more enjoyment to the game. I'm that kind of customer where it's like, yeah, I'm willing to pay to have more fun on something that I'm already having fun on. And people are gonna have their own opinions about me saying that, and you know, I don't give a shit. It's my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Fuck off. Like, quite frankly, like, I would have loved to have had the opportunity to pay for better maps in Battlefield. I would love the opportunity to be able to say, I can get more stuff out of this game for $14.99 and not just some dumbass skin. So, and I think perhaps I'll do a whole video on that. But man, yeah, you know, I know we kind of deviated off topic, and if you're used to my videos, then you know that that's something I do sometimes because my mind kind of races a lot when it comes to this subject. Again, I love this shit so much that there's all kinds of thought processes and stuff I have when it comes to this stuff. And we are going to have a new content channel that's going to be dedicated to like ideas. Maybe I can get some of that stuff off my chest and stop doing it in videos. But we're going to have a couple of new content channels where we're going to go further into the business aspects of this stuff. And we're going to, unlike today's episode where I felt it was necessary to just talk about it, we're going to do our best to keep the politics out. But yeah, man, for now, that's it. As always, play video games, enjoy video games. Fuck the grifters, keep them out of your ear because they talking nonsense, they talking bullshit. They really don't give a fuck about you finding enjoyment in something. They give a fuck about you being a yes man for them and agreeing with them. They want you to go along, get along, whatever they gotta say. Yeah, they really don't care. You know, don't worry so much about what a fictional character is. Worry about how well they play. What's the gameplay like? Is the shit fun? You know, those are the real questions, not motherfuckers' race or sexual orientation. Who cares? You know what I'm saying? But I digress. More content to come because this, you know, this game shit is getting more and more interesting by the minute. I will be talking sometime later this week, more than likely, about the whole FTC, Microsoft version 2, and how the FTC is once again wasting their money and their time and our money and our time pursuing something that they are actually right about going after, but they can't prove it. So because they can't prove it, and because inflation is sitting right there, you can't say Microsoft's doing it for the reason you're assuming they're doing it for, and you're going to ultimately lose. The lawyers have already proven that they're nowhere near as inept as yours are. Again, the next video we'll hit on that, and hopefully I can get Cal in so we can talk about that one a little bit. But you know, prayers and thoughts, positive prayers and thoughts for you all and your families. Enjoy your games, and until next time, we will see you later, guys.